impossible to hear you, but I picked up on a little bit of that, forgive the planes in the background. Look, I mentioned values, and I think, I gave a State of the State a few weeks ago and talked about California values, things we hold dear, and it's upholding those values. That's the spirit, I think, of your question, if I heard it, as it relates to the broader issues of immigration. We have very strong opinions on border security. It's why we sent the National Guard to the border. My opinion was a little different than the prior administration's on border security. And that's not an indictment, but it's a reflection of very public actions, not just private thoughts that were expressed, public thoughts in that space. As it relates to broader immigration issues, I'm mindful I'm in a region where there's this dynamic interdependence with Tijuana in this cross-border activity that is celebrated here in a bipartisan way. I've been on many times the other side of the border with Republican leaders from San Diego, from the Chamber of Commerce, other organizations, celebrating the fact that we have one of the most dynamic borders in the Western Hemisphere, one of the busiest borders in the Western Hemisphere. It paints a different picture of border activity and immigration more broadly. And I think in the spirit of the next year is we need to do that. We need to do a better job at developing a different framework, a different narrative around immigration. The border is one thing. It's tied to immigration, but it's not the immigration story. Border is one thing. Broader issue of immigration needs to radically be reformed. And that should be universally obvious to anybody. The asylum system needs to be reformed. We need to address the backlogs. We need to address people who have been here 10, 15, 20 years that are working here legally, all the mixed status families. We need to address the anxiety of workforce needs for folks in Central Valley and Silicon Valley. All of those things should be front and center in our conversation and debate around immigration, but unfortunately it's not, because it's been bastardized by Greg Bavino, by Stephen Miller, the architect of all of this. And it's servicing no one. It's wrecking the economy. It's impacting public safety writ large. Final point. And this came up in our conversation an hour ago. How people are not cooperating with local law enforcement now because they increasingly don't trust local law enforcement. I mean, how the hell did that happen? Because of Donald Trump. So this is a public safety issue broadly, and that's how abjectly ruinous this administration's been on this policy. And that's why people are outraged. American citizens gunned down and killed in American cities. The militarization of American cities. I mean, I was over in Europe, and they can't believe what they're seeing. This is not the United States of America. I was just back east. I was in Wisconsin. I was there. I mean, how people are feeling about this country right now? So, the President of the United States had, decided to spend time last night not focusing on the cost of beef or coffee, which are through the roof since he's been president, but on whether or not he's going to give it to Trevor Noah. I'm going to have fun with you, he said. The President of the United States saying, I'm going to have fun with you. The President of the United States going after his enemies, not debating his enemies. That's what they do in Hungary. That's what they do in Russia. So you're in the center of it down here. Hasn't gone away, to your point. And it started here. And so I have a year left in the spirit of your question. And I'm not going to give up or give in over the course of the next year. And as I said to the community, I'll say more broadly to 40 million Americans that live in my home state, we'll have their back and we'll continue to be back until the last hours of this administration. Thank you guys very, very much.